And I've always been very active in conferences and what goes on in astrology. And I've always had the dream, and I talked about it everywhere I went, of a college for astrology, that we have an obligation to the next generation. If we don't start it, then somebody's got to get this started. And we may not benefit from this. We probably won't. But at least our children, our next generation of astrologists are going to have an excellent education if we do something now. That was my whole thing, and I talked about it everywhere I went, just about. And when one place I had talked was when we were in Chicago at the AFA conference, and of course there was a lot of people upset with AFA, and so there was a split off. It's called an AFAN was born. And one of the things, of course, I gravitated to those people who were talking about education. And I kept presenting my idea that we need a college, and everybody else was saying, no, we need to get into a college that is already there. And I kept arguing that will never happen. They might give us a class here or a class there, but they won't give us a complete program, a degreed program in astrology. They just won't do it. And to this date, they still haven't. 1991, I guess it was, I got this call from a gal. Oh, what is her name? She was from one of the southern states, one in North Carolina, I think, or somewhere down there. Anyways, she called me. She said that she had gotten my name from Michael Muncasey, and had heard that I was trying to get other people to listen to me about doing a college. And I said, yeah. And she said, well, I just did my college thesis on establishing a college. And I says, you did? She says, well, now I'm going to Chicago. There was another conference in Chicago. She said, are you going to be there? And I said, well, I hadn't planned on it, but are you going to be there? She said, yeah. I said, I'll be there. So I grabbed my daughter Laura, and I said, you're coming with me, and we headed for Chicago for the conference, and we met, and there were several other people came in with us, and we sat down and we were talking, and it got just like it did before. We had all talk, but nothing done. Finally, I kind of slid my chair back and says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to go back to Seattle, Washington, and I'm going to start a college. We're going to do something, and if it can be done in the state of Washington, it'll be the place to do it, because it is a benchmark state. It's always ahead of the other states in doing things. So and I said, one thing I'm going to do though, if we do this, you guys are going to support it. They said, oh yes, we will. Well, this is great. And so I went back and I said, what have I done? And my whole family, was behind me. Okay, you can do it. You can just get it going. And so I got on the telephone and started calling people. And one of the first people I called was Joanne. And she was, you betcha I'll be there. She said, this is great. And I called quite a few people, and we all met at my store. And we said, okay, here's what we want to do. Well, we want a college. We want a degreed college, an accredited college. And I said, it's going to be a lot of hard work, and I want everybody to stop and think about exactly why you want to be part of this and what you want. What do you see in the future? And we all did this, Of course, mine was that I want to get it started. Then you guys going to take it. You're going to run with it. I'm a good, cardinal person. Anyways, everybody was just ecstatic, and we decided said, okay, we're going to break up into different groups, and Laura was part of the group that was going to go to the state and see what it would take to incorporate, get a nonprofit status, what we can do in terms of establishing the college, and then we had Michael McCasey was going to work with the bylaws. Boy, this goes way back. I'm trying to remember everything here. And Stephen, what's Stephen's last name? Well, anyways, they came up with the name, and because I said, we've got to name this thing. And then right at that first meeting, Rick stood up and says, I know we can call it Kepler College after Kepler, you know. Because he was an astrologer, not just an astronomer. And so everybody voted and said, yep, that's the name of the school. And so that's how we started, right there. And we met every month for almost 10 years. There was one guy who was not there at that meeting, but he was a good friend of mine, Gary Lorenzen. I found out that he had his degree in curriculum design. That was Joanne, Roxana, and Gary made up the curriculum committee. He commuted from Portland, which is 200, almost 300 miles from Seattle. Not quite, that's 200 and something. Once a month for going on 10 years, back and forth. He took care of the working with the HEC board, which is the education branch, yeah. And set that up. He and Joanne, they did a fantastic job. My job, I volunteered for it, was to be like an ambassador at large, to get the word out, to get in touch with as many people as I could and get them excited about it, get them to believe that this can be done. That was the biggest bump we had to get over, is having the community itself believe that it can be done, because nobody said, we can't do that, you can't do that. We certainly can, we have every right to do this, you know, because I'm kind of the idealistic person here, you know. But anyways, so I had a huge mailing list. So I mailed out to everybody out there that I had on my mailing list, which was around 6,000 names at that time. Then I was asked to come as a representative to the Zurich convention, and I went there and I presented it to the group there. And that's where I got, I think, did I know Nick before? I think I just met him there. I'm not sure. But anyways, I cornered Nick on and, you know, he gets very wary of looking at me. Oh, here comes that crazy woman again. But he thought it was great. And he promoted it over there, or spoke to a lot of people. And then a couple of years later, I went to Geneva to that conference. In between, I went to Washington D.C. for the first. It was a UAC conference there, and I kind of went nose to nose with a few people, because I wanted to. They had a free speech room, and I wanted to book the free speech room to talk about Kepler, and they didn't think it was the right choice of topics, you know, and they think they thought it was sort of pie in the sky thing. But anyways, I finagled and pushed, made a few people angry. But it turned out that a lot of people turned up there, and they had a good debate going on. Gary Lewinson and Joanne were there, and they led it, you know, and answering questions in terms of curriculum and how it was going to be set up and the whole thing, you know. But it was an exciting time because the people would get excited about it. This thing is, you really sure this is going to go? And I said, we've already got the accreditation from Washington State, and they say once the curriculum is, we had to take all the different steps to go through. Gary and Joanne and Roxana all followed those rules, got it done. And then was at another UAC, I think down in Florida. It was our biggest hurdle all through this. It's been money, the lack of. And it's all been just hanging on my fingernails, literally, keeping it going just with money. But Joanne did a fantastic job down in Florida in actually getting money, getting pledges. And I said, okay, Joanne, you're going to run with it. And she did.
What was it like in the overall astrology community, the reception of Kepler? I know there was a lot of excitement, but...
It was mixed. I mean, people really loved the idea. They got inspired by the idea. But they could not go past the feeling that no one would ever allow it to be. And yes, there even today, right now, going on, the state is putting up hoops for us to jump over, making it hard for us to stay alive. The thing is we need the college, not just for the education, but to give to the astrologers out there a sense of pride that we are not some far out hippie group, you know, not having any real meaning. We have a lot of meaning, and we have a lot of, our knowledge can help the greater community out there. It's not just doing readings. We can work with businesses. There's all kinds of applications, and be an actual bona fide, respectable profession that young people would like to be in, to choose for their life work. And the only way we will ever do that is through education. And it's still hard for a lot of people to believe that that's possible, that anybody would allow us to do that. Well, a few years ago, just after it was first open, you heard about what happened from Boston College. The president there, he really racked us across the state of Washington, across the boards there about even allowing us to be. And of course my back comes up, allow us to be? How dare you say that we can't be? This is a free country, and we choose to be astrologers. This is an honorable, very old, very ancient profession, and it is something that is giving to the world, and it's a helping profession, and we have every right to have our own educational system. Just as lawyers, doctors, engine chiefs, you know, the whole group. They have theirs, why shouldn't we? We are not charlatans. Come and seek. Take a look at the curriculum. But there's still a lot of opposition out there. There's a lot of it. But we can, as long as we stay true to ourselves and to our goals, We're not going to draw, one of the main things we wanted to say in the very beginning with the curriculum is that all ideas can be presented. and the college is not going to be just one approach to astrology, because there's so many. There's Vedic, there's Western, there's traditional, there's the new evolutionary astrology. There's so much that needs to be presented to the students that they can pick and choose which path they're going to go. But they need to know about all the other paths, because that's how respect happens. If you don't know about evolutionary astrology, you feel threatened by it, so it becomes bogus to you. But if you learn about it, at least know the bottom line of it, you can respect it and say, okay, that's your approach and it's great. And this, I can stay true to my approach, see? But that's what education does, and that's one of the biggest hurdles we've had, is to get people to, they believe in it, but they don't believe it can happen. And that's why it's hard to keep financially alive, because they're not going to put an awful lot of money. A lot of people did, thank goodness, but that was the biggest hurdle, is getting over that. And a lot of teachers out there didn't understand. Well, I've had a school for years in my store, and well, what are you going to do? You're starting up a college? I'm not starting. I'm helping. That's not my college. I don't know it. And yes, I do. And my students, I'm going to recommend that they go to Kepler College. Sure, I want them to stay with me up to a point, but they once they reach that point, I recommend them go to Kepler College and finish it up. And no, it's not a threat to their classes that are going, and they're excellent teachers out there. What we hope will happen is that these same teachers will sit down with the Kepler faculty and gear their program to dovetail right with Kepler. And this is not only good for astrology, it also is good for the professionals out there working. So it's a win-win situation as far as I was concerned, So these were the objections we ran into, A lot of those objections are to the past now, because look at what's happened. How many classes have we graduated so far? Yeah, see? Wonderful.